Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Speaking of Zane. We got quite a few of you already on board, logged in here for the 138th episode of Speaking of Zane. And hopefully you can hear me okay. April 5th edition. We did something that we rarely do, but we have done on occasion, and that is move the Sunday night session to Monday night. And we had a lot of reasons to for yesterday with Easter and people coming and going and whatnot. So made a made an executive decision and moved it to tonight, and that afforded me the opportunity to cook a couple of. I had a pork loin and a flat iron steak and some baked potatoes. Anyway, but we are here for the 138th edition of Speaking of Zane, where we get together, talk about Zane, laugh about him, cry about him, remember him, make sure that his name stays alive, and lots of other stuff as sort of as a byproduct of his life here on Earth, and a lot of fun things that we do as a group. And so glad to have all of you on board with us. Reminder: we're streaming to my Facebook page, to the Speaking of Zane Facebook group, and also to my my YouTube channel. So if anybody ever wants to share Speaking of Zane with anybody else, friends, family, anybody you think might be interested in the kind of things that we talk about and they're involved in, you're welcome to share that. And if they're not on Facebook, that's okay. Send them the YouTube link, and I'll be happy to give you that. And of course, they could always go back and watch the recordings. And we've had a couple of guests so far this year. We've got another one lined up for, what did we decide? My friend Jane Grismer. We've got her lined up for April 25th. She's going to tell us a little bit about some upcoming activities for Memorial Day, which is a very solemn day. It's one that I'm glad our country recognizes. And I tell you what, it'd be one of those that would be, especially in today's political climate, it would be one of those days that would be very easy just to fall off the radar. And that's why I'm doubly committed to making sure that doesn't happen. And I'm glad that we've got a lot of folks out there that feel the same way. But well, let me give a couple of shout outs here before we move on and make sure everybody knows who is on board. Thank you guys for posting. By the way, I can't see on StreamYard when you join, but I can see when you put something in the chat there. So thanks for doing that. And if you're out there and you're not posting anything, hello to you. Welcome. Thank you for being there. We've got Ken down in Orlando area. My buddy Mike Kufovich, who I had the honor to serve with as a fellow crew dog. And Koof was up here, gosh, I don't remember when it was, Koof, several months back when we connected there at Georgia National. Good to see you in there. From down near, let me see if I can get this right. Are you in Berrien County? Are you in Nashville, Georgia, or Valdosta? I can't remember. Anyway, somewhere down there. And there's my cousin. Speaking of somewhere down there, there's my cousin Toby down there, Ocilla, Georgia. There's my good friend Amy Walton. Hey, Amy. Going to talk a little bit about you and Barb's excursion here in a minute. Good to have you in there. And let's see who else we got. Amy, Koof. It's starting to look like a looking glass flight. Let's see. Yeah, happy Easter. Yeah, we moved because of Easter. Hope you guys had a happy one. We have a little, how old is she, Lori? 15-month-old granddaughter here with us at the moment. And she loved finding the Easter eggs and putting them in her basket. And that was fun to watch. Lowndes County. Hey, Hyra, that's what I was trying to think of. Hey, Hyra, Georgia, down there in South Georgia. My sister and I were my wife and I were just down there, Koof. A couple of weekends ago, we went down and spent the day with my mom, and then my dad and my sister came up here over the weekend. I'll talk more about that here in a minute. They live in Fitzgerald, I think I told you. All right. Well, that's everybody I see on the list at the moment, but I'll continue to. Somebody's from Arizona. Who's the Arizona participant? That might be my buddy Dan DeVlieger. Yeah. Sometimes if you launch the stream from the Speaking of Zane Facebook group, I think it doesn't carry your name over into the broadcast session. So I see you as a Facebook user, and that I think that may be the case. But yeah, it's Dan. Okay, good to have you in there, Dan. All right, well, let's see what we got here. I'm going to try to make this quick tonight. Maybe we'll be done about 9 o'clock, but we've got a lot of great updates. So we're doing a lot of good stuff as a group, involved in some things. First of all, I don't see Steve Shirley in here tonight, but I wanted to give a shout out to Steve. He took a little slip and fall a couple of weeks ago, and has a broken or fractured clavicle and something else. But I saw a couple of pictures of him over the weekend with the grandkids, and he looked great. He can't keep a good man down there, but well, he's already proven that to us, hasn't he, with the illness he had a couple of years ago. But Steve, if you're out there or if you're watching the recording, everybody's thinking about you, praying for you. Steve's a good man. I mentioned Jane's going to come on. Jane has an affiliation with the mighty 8th Air Force Museum down in Savannah, and you guys know I've been involved in restoring a B-17 bomber down there for 11 years now, I guess. And anyway, that's how I met Jane. Well, Jane is involved in the coordination of an event at Memorial Day to place a flag for every aircrew member that was lost in the 8th Air Force during World War II, and most of those were B-17 and B-24 crew members. She's going to tell us all about it, and she also has a connection with Tunnel to Towers, which is another great organization that has just done phenomenal work, and she'll tell us a little bit about that as well. There's Katie Aaron. Hey, Katie. All right, let's see. Yeah, I mentioned my dad and my sister came up. My dad, you guys remember, most of you probably remember my dad in 2018, he was inducted into the Georgia Military Veterans Hall of Fame. And that was just an amazing thing. And if you know his story, and if you've ever read his Silver Star citation, it would not surprise you that he was inducted into the Georgia Military Veterans Hall of Fame. And I'm going to see if I can find the, let's see if I can find what screen I'm looking. Here we go. I want to share some pictures with you. But anyway, so my sister said, hey, you mind if we come up? And we would love to have you guys join us. Well, my dad is a 2018 inductee, and because of the Chinese virus last year, they didn't get to do a 2020 induction, so they just did it this past weekend, and they normally do it in Columbus, Georgia, but they did it up here in Johns Creek, Georgia, which is a northern Atlanta suburb, and they have a very nice park out there, a veterans park that the city of Johns Creek put together, and they have a really nice amphitheater and just a beautiful venue, and about 50 miles away from us. So my dad and my sister rolled up Saturday morning, and then we drove together out there to Johns Creek and spent the better part of the day, and just got to, since my dad's in an alumni, an inductee from 2018, he had they are always invited to the new induction ceremonies, and he brought us as guests. So I don't see if my dad and my sister are on there. I think they're on there tonight. If they are, hello, sis and dad. yeah, Lori and I were blown away to be invited to go, and they had reserve seating for us, and just to, you know, first of all, spend time with my dad and my sister is awesome in the first place, but to go, to be able to go over there and listen to the stories, listen to the biographies of the 16 new inductees. Um, I think two, Dad will correct me if I get any of this wrong. I think two were Medal of Honor recipients, and uh, the several were awarded this honor posthumously. So, but it was so awesome to hear the stories. I mean, when you're sitting there listening to some of the stories that we heard about these men, it just sends shivers, and it's just an amazing feeling to know that there are men and there are women, but there are men that will rise to the occasion and do such extraordinary things for their fellow soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and ultimately for their country. And to hear some of the things, it's just an amazing thing, and it's just so humbling to to be in the presence of such men. It's just an amazing thing, and I appreciate my dad. My dad knows I love this kind of stuff, history and military, and I'm glad that he decided to make the trip. It's a 3 hour plus drive for them one way, and didn't have to do it. So it was great spending time with them, and we went and when we were all done, we went and had a late lunch, early dinner at Semper Fi Bar and Grill, which you've heard us talk about before, and that's my buddy Ralph owns the Semper Fi Bar and Grill, and we had a good some good chow there, and then Dad and Sharon drove back Saturday afternoon. But it was a great time, sure was. Let's see, what else do we have? So you can go to this is on my Facebook page. I think I created an album, but you can go look at some of that. Just have the most beautiful park. If you ever find yourselves in Alpharetta or Johns Creek, that neck of the woods, it's worth swinging by this park here. It's just an amazing thing. They've got I think it's about a third scale or half scale Vietnam wall you see right here. Just an amazing thing there. I didn't even know this place existed until my dad told me about it. So anyway, great stuff there. Glad we got a chance to go with y'all, Dad and Sharon. All right, let me get back over here and see what else we got. Well, we had just another amazing occurrence today, an amazing event today. That's one of those moments in someone's life or in someone's career that you'll never forget it. You'll always remember it. It's just a kind of a milestone thing. And you heard Lori reminded me last week on Speaking to Zane to mention it. But our son Jackson, who you may recall, there's Brenda Lusk up in Michigan. Hey, Brenda. And anyway. You may have heard us, you remember that Jackson recently got out of the Air Force, spent 4 years in the Air Force, grew up real quick, went from a single high school graduate to an air commando in the world's greatest Air Force, a married man, a father, a homeowner, all in a New York minute, and that 4 years went by quick, and set of circumstances, medical condition and a health condition, cut his military career short, and so he was separated on a medical discharge, and carries a pretty high disability rating and whatnot, but he's doing great. But the way he looked at things, for those who haven't heard his story, is he always envisioned becoming a pilot, and when this happened about him, having to depart the Air Force sooner than he had really wanted to, um, he he did everything he could to sort of get the waivers and fight it and this and that right till he exhausted all his options. But at the end of it all, at the ripe old age of 22, um, he was like, well, that's the deck I'm dealt, and he said, I'm just gonna get an earlier start on my next phase of my career than I would have otherwise, and that next phase was to get his college degree and become a professional pilot. So he's been um, going to college full time and learning to fly full time. And today he had an amazing day because it culminated in him soloing. So he's been flying since about January, I guess. And, the weather dictates a lot, how much time you can fly and how frequently and all that. But anyway, he's progressed amazingly, and all of his training and all of his flight time culminated today into his first solo flight. And it was an amazing thing. Lori was out there, Caitlin was out there with the baby. I was out there in a couple of different places. I got right on the end of the runway, and then later right out on the runway with his flight instructor, and got some good footage. But today he went up, and him and his instructor did about 4 or 5 touch and goes, and then they did a full stop, taxied back. The instructor got out, and Jackson taxied back out and did, I think, four circuits in the pattern, each with a full stop. So he was able to satisfy all the requirements to solo, and everything went great. It couldn't have been any better, and just really happy for him. And this is a kid. Now this is kind of funny because I think Friday was National Autism Awareness Day, and early on Jackson was diagnosed, what they call what, Lori, on the spectrum. On this, the autism has this broad spectrum of impact, and he was on the spectrum and diagnosed pretty early on, and he was. Lori will correct me in the chat here if I get any of this wrong, but Jackson was really nonverbal, probably he was almost 5, I think, and just did not talk, and had some of the quirks that you find with the OCD kind of stuff and the different ways that autism manifests itself. But anyway, well, thanks to a lot of hard work and therapy and the most tenacious mother that he could ever ask for, look at what he's been able to do, and it's just an amazing thing. Don't limit your kids. I'll tell you that the doctor told Lori. I saw Lori did a little video today. I could see her tearing up when she said it, and I'm about to now. But she said the doctor at the time told her, "Don't set the bar too high for Jackson," and that was the wrong thing that he could have done. Worst thing he could have done, because Lori and Jackson together leaped over that bar, and look at him now. So don't let those labels inhibit growth. I mean, that applies to all aspects of our life. But just an amazing story. I love to tell the story about him and the path that he's on, and just a great husband, great father, and happy for him. Now he continues on with his training, and he will go to the next phase, and the lessons all build on one another, and eventually he'll culminate in getting a check ride for visual flight rules, and then he'll move on to instrument ratings and cross-country trips and all the different things to progress. And ultimately, he'll arrive at a point where he's flying as a professional pilot in some capacity. That's where he wants to be. So good stuff there. I tell you what, I couldn't be more proud of him. And because of that, Ken, I'm happy to say that the Superior Flight School is the hat of the week. And that's the school that he goes to. And he has just the coolest instructor. She's a young lady and is doing a great job. We talked quite a bit today, and she has just a really great attitude. And Superior Flight School, she's a full-time flight instructor there. But that is the hat of the week. Now, Jackson is a student at Liberty University, and Liberty University, the degree that he's going for is in aviation, and so he's basically a full-time student doing full-time pilot training, and he's probably over halfway through with his all of his degree requirements. But anyway, man, I spent a lot more time talking about Jackson today than I had planned to, but I'm proud. This is a good day there for him. All right, that is the hat of the week, Ken. All right, let's see what we got here. I said I was going to try to finish by 9, but I'm afraid I'm not going to make it. But that's okay. This week in military history. I've skipped this for the last few weeks, and sometimes something will stick out, and I can't overlook it. But you may recall this, and if you recall where you were at when this happened, put it in the chat. I'd love to see that. Well, what is it I'm talking about? Well, on March the 30th of 1981, March the 30th, 1981, President Ronald Reagan was shot. Does everybody remember that? He sure was. I tell you, I remember it. I was a senior in high school. I had just turned 18 years old, I think, when Ronald Reagan was shot. And one of my favorite Ronald Reagan quotes, besides the one you guys always hear me quoting about we can't help everybody, but everybody can help somebody. Another quote of his I love, and I may not get it exactly right, but I think the context is he told his wife Nancy something like, "I guess I forgot to duck," and but he was such a humorous guy, and always saw the bright side of everything, and just was. I'm proud to have served under him. He was, the president that I enlisted and first served under, and when he was shot in March, I would go to basic training that next September and serve under him until George Bush, the elder, was elected. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, Bush the elder, yeah. So let's see. So that was 1981. See, Brenda Lusk was at work. Ken was a freshman in high school up in Virginia. Yeah, just a small amount of coverage up there, I'm sure, Ken, in the metro there. Koof, where were you at? You remember it. Koof was a freshman. I'll say, so Koof and Ken were both in the same era there, a couple years behind me. And let's see. Well, you can keep posting in there. Anybody that wants to post where you were at, or where were you at when Ronald Reagan was shot. Now, Lori and I got an opportunity. There's no doubt, there's no hiding it that he's by far my favorite president of all time. Lori and I visited the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library a couple summers ago when we went out to LA, and one of the most amazing places I've ever visited, and we just had the most wonderful time there. There's Roy Cupper. Good to have you in there, Chief. Where were you when Ronald Reagan was shot? Roy. We were just talking about that. I was a senior in high school. I had just turned 18 years old in 1981, and I would go to basic training about 6 months later. Amy was in El Paso, her hometown, awaiting her delayed enlistment, and she was 18. All right. Yep, Amy and I are in the same window there. Amy looks much better than I do. She has aged much better than the rest of us guys. That is faux show. Steve Shirley, hey buddy. Steve was in Oslo. Steve, what were you doing up there, buddy? Lanny was at tech school, so Lanny was a little bit ahead of me. Lanny was already in tech school, 6 months or so ahead of me. Lori was a junior in high school. She's a year behind me. And yeah, amazing. What a great president, but what a great man he was. If you look back at his life and what he stood for, I tell you what, just an amazing man that I respect. All right, well, let's see what we got here. Veteran Cemetery Challenge. We had some veteran cemetery visits this week, and we had one yesterday. Lori paid a visit to Georgia National Cemetery, and I tell you what, I have not been out there to see Zane probably in 3 weeks. That's a little bit long for either one of us to go without getting out there. It's 20 miles or about 24 miles away for us, and it really doesn't take much to get us to go. If I just get a little bit of an inkling that I want to get out there or get out on the road or get out of the house, it's easy to decide just to run up there the quick 24 miles. But I have not been up there in about 3 weeks, I guess. Now, I have been really busy at work. I'm putting together a whole new program for the company that's really got me sort of heads down on some things. So I just haven't had the sort of the freedom that I've become accustomed to. Let me look back. Let me look back in the chat here. We'll move on to the Veteran Cemetery Challenge. Okay, Steve is responding what he was doing in Norway. Okay, Allied Forces, Northern Europe. Okay, well, Steve is senior to many of us. He's a few years ahead of most of us. So he was already out there in the big world, and many of us were still in high school. Roy says he met the Secret Service agent on board the E4 that was handling the Uzi. He showed me the briefcase with both sides that dropped open with Uzi and the magnetic mounts. Well, that's cool, Roy. I never heard that story. Roy was at Offutt already in March of '81. Okay. Great story. I tell you, sometimes it's good just to reminisce where were you at when. And thank you all for playing along. Good stuff. All right, Veteran Cemetery Challenge. So Lori was out there. Daryl was, I don't know if Daryl's on tonight. I think he's there. Hey, Daryl, if you're there. Daryl visited Jefferson Barracks National Cemetery. Big surprise there, right? But here's the deal. He didn't know this was going to happen, but he was able to visit out there with his granddaughter and her family, and they got to see their Nana, Daryl's wife Wanda, who is buried there. So it was kind of a last-minute surprise for him, and so he got to spend time with his granddaughter from Tennessee. And then my buddy Jim Miller, I don't know if Jim's in here tonight, but Jim made another visit to see our good friend Todd at Omaha National Cemetery. And then my friend Amy and her sister Barb had a couple of visits, and they were visits. It's a sad occasion because they were there to bury a friend at Fort Logan National Cemetery in Denver, Colorado. And our fellow crew dog, Michael Bowles, passed away. I guess it's been a couple of weeks now, but he had the same job as several of us on here, and spent time at Ellsworth and Offutt and maybe Grissom, but just a highly regarded airman. And I know that Amy and several others had just met with Mike. Amy, was it within the last year, wasn't it? Just months ago that he drove through the Omaha area. I think that's true. And I saw a picture of you with him and who was it? Thomas. Was it Gary Thomas or I can't remember. But so I know that Amy saw him recently. And anyway, rest in peace, Mike. Another one of us gone way too early. And Amy, thank you for being a great wingman and taking the trip out there and seeing them off. And so Amy had the visit to Fort Logan, and then on the way back, Amy and her sister stopped off at what is a new one for us. Amy, I don't know if you realize, yeah, it was Gary Thomas. Amy, I don't know if you realize this, but your visit to the Kansas Veteran Cemetery at Waukene was a new one for us. It was a new one for us. So I've got it on the map. So if you look at, whoops, I got to zero back in here. Zero back out. Let me zoom back out. Hang on. I got to find that vast expanse that is known as the state of Kansas. And I think, Amy, isn't it right here? Boom, there it is. So that's a new one for us, Amy, and you can see I've already got it plotted on the map, so thank you for that. And just sad that your visit to Fort Logan was to lay one of our fellow crew dogs to rest. It's going to happen to all of us, and thank you for representing, Amy. And we've got that added to the map. So if we add all of those up for the week, we had a total of 5 visits with 1 new. So we are up to 390 visits to 128 different cemeteries. And if I go back out there, you can see how they are positioned across the country. So that has been a fun project, and I sure appreciate you guys playing along with us. And when I showed this to people, like at work or in other spheres that I run in, they're just amazed at what we've done, a relatively small group of people, what we have done over the years to make sure that the next generation knows about these places, to talk about these places, talk about their importance and their reverence, and I appreciate you guys doing that with us. All right, and we move on to the Thank a Vet Challenge. I know we've probably got some that I don't know about, but let me tell you what I do know about. We've got, my dad, my sister, Lori, and I, we were in the middle of a couple of hundred at least veterans on Saturday, and there were exchanges and thank yous and this and that, and just too many to sort of track there, so I didn't even try to put a number to it. But that was a target-rich environment of veterans. Oh, did I mention one of the veterans who was honored in this year's class of inductees is, and if you're a football fan, you may know this. If you're a Georgia football fan, you certainly know it. Vince Dooley, legendary Vince Dooley, former Georgia coach, later athletic director, just an icon in Georgia history, Georgia football history. And my dad's not a Georgia fan. My dad's an Alabama fan, but my dad is the first one that spotted Vince Dooley and said, "Hey, isn't that Vince Dooley?" And then we saw him in the program, and sure enough, it was a very interesting that I'm going to show you a little bit later on. Well, doggone it, maybe I didn't Let me see if I can find it for you. Here we go. Yeah, here you go. And we were after we were walking around for a bit and taking a look at all the monuments and stuff. Here comes Mr. Dooley, and he had the honor of meeting my dad. And Mr. Dooley is a better man now for having met my dad, who's my hero. So, Vince Dooley, you can thank me for helping introduce you to my dad. And Vince Dooley, he's what, Dad, 88 years old or something like 82, 88. He's well in his 80s, but I tell you, he looks like he's in great shape. And it was really neat to be there and get a chance to meet him, and for Dad to meet him there. And he was a Marine as well, so they had that in common. So anyway, just an amazing day that was. Also wanted to show you. I was talking about our pal Mike, and here's one of the photos that Amy captured. It's just this. If you've never seen a military funeral service, you know, the ceremony, you know, the pomp, the circumstance of it is just an amazing thing. And I would say go experience one before it's one of your loved ones. I mean, do that too, but it's just an amazing tradition, and I'm so glad that we honor our veterans this way. And Amy snapped a bunch of pictures, and that's one that I pulled there of our friend Mike. Rest in peace. All right, let's see. So with the thank yous, Aunt Paula led the charge again. I tell you, I think between Aunt Paula and Ken Pesic, they're sort of neck and neck for total thank you count. But Aunt Paula thanked a total of 6 this week. And she does a great job, as does Daryl and my dad and Ken, of chronicling the interaction. I love reading them, by the way. Keep that up. Every time, Katie, every time you guys have, especially some unique or interesting interaction, it's so neat to read that. And thank you guys for taking the time. It takes a little bit of time to write these things down, but Aunt Paula does a great job of describing as much as she knows about the veterans. She had 6 veterans, one that was a Korean War vet, and then 3 Vietnam vets, Aunt Paula. And then Daryl, he racked up 4 thank yous this week himself up in the St. Louis area. And then Ken got another one under his belt. Ken was out at the VA and thanked a vet out there. So we had a total of 11 thank yous this week that I've counted, and that takes us up to 760. So 760 times. And we're right about the 2-year mark, because we started this in May of 2019 when Charlotte was at Texas A&M, and Lori and I were flying back from Texas A&M. What was it for Lori? Was it for her graduation or for her ring ceremony or something? Anyway, we were flying back, and I met a Vietnam vet in the Houston airport, and I just went up and chatted and said thank you and took a picture of him, and then that was the beginning of the challenge here with Speaking of Zane, and we have done that. When I say that, I mean said thank you, or said I appreciate you, or struck up a conversation with a veteran or a service member 760 times. That's not too shabby. That's about one a day, I guess, if you want to look at it that way, since we started. Good stuff. All right. Well, let's see. Nothing new on the organizations. I do need to get our group built for the 5K run that we're going to do at the end of July. We got a little time, but I want to get the get our team built so that when you go to register, you know what team to join. So stay tuned for that. We had a great time with it last year, and many of you all across the country participated with us virtually, and it was just a good time. A good time was had by all. We had 10 or 12 in our little local group here, and it was a lot of fun. Let's see, what do we got in the chat here? Amy says, thank you for challenge. Well, Amy, you are up to any challenge I think that anybody would to give you. You are one of the strongest. To be as thin as you are one of the strongest women I've ever had the pleasure to work with. And let's see, Katie hasn't had very many lately. Okay. And Koof asks, how's she doing? You probably mean Charlotte. Charlotte is doing great. She gets frustrated with the old man when she calls me on her walk home. She's close enough to the FBI office from her apartment to walk every day. And usually on her walk home, she'll call me. And I don't always answer. I can't always answer. She's 3 hours behind us. So she's walking home about 5, and it's about 8 here. And usually I'm either wrapping up the dinner, cleaning up, watching Tucker Carlson or something. Anyway, I don't always get a chance to answer. So she gets a little bit frustrated with me, and she says I don't love her. But she's doing great, Koof. I tell you, I don't want to know too much about what she's doing because it makes me nervous. What I know about what she's doing makes me nervous to think about. But I couldn't be more proud. She is really taken to Seattle. She has settled in nicely. She's, tells me every time we talk that, she's in the game now. She's doing, just awesome stuff. She's acclimated. She's, is doing great. Koof, thanks for asking. Great young lady. All right, let's see. Yeah, so stay tuned for more on the 5K. We'll do that. But there's going to be other things going on between now and then. The Memorial Day is something I'm working on. Actually, my veterans team asked me if I would write the Memorial Day address for the leadership of our company to deliver to the company. So I need to start working on that. You know how the president or CEO of a company will send out an email, acknowledging whatever, Memorial Day or Veterans Day or whatever. Well, they asked me to craft something for him, so I need to think about that. So that'll be kind of fun. And let's see, what do we got in the chat here? I don't want to miss anything. Yeah, Lori, they're very close, Lori and Charlotte, and they're close, but they. How do I put this delicately? They are slightly abrasive to one another in some ways. But I'll tell you, Charlotte knows that she could not ask for a better mother than she has. And anyway, they talk every day. They talk every day. And yeah, she has some big activity coming up, and it makes us a little bit nervous, some of the things that she's doing, but somebody's got to do those things, and God bless her for stepping up and being a part of things that need to be done. Not everybody will step up and do things, but so Koof, I hadn't planned on talking about Charlie tonight, but thanks for bringing her up. You can see I'm getting a little my eyes are getting a little bit liquid there, but talking about her. All right, let's see. That is about it. I have not seen whether we have lost anybody apart from our friend Mike, but anybody on active duty or in training. And that's good. I'm glad that I haven't seen any, because that's my least favorite part of speaking of Zane, is having to acknowledge those heroes for stepping up and sacrificing. But All right, folks. Well, I tell you what, I've enjoyed the Monday night edition of Speaking of Zane, April the 5th. Hard to believe we're in April already. Before you know it, it will be Memorial Day. We just got to, another, what, seven weeks or so. But we will talk more about that maybe next week or so. I'm trying to keep my pulse on what's going on with the cemeteries and whether the flag placements will occur and what other activities might be going on, and give you guys some ideas of some things you can do locally. Um, we'll, we'll talk more about that. I need to sort of ramp up my. Um, she does not have a boyfriend. I don't even want to talk about it, Lori. In the chat, she says she has a boyfriend. She doesn't have a boyfriend. She has a person that she knows that happens to be a male. Anywho, all right. Well, don't forget when you're out and about this week, by gosh, if you see a veteran or a service member, just tell them thanks. Tell them hi. Engage them in a conversation. You don't know what you're going to learn. And if we don't do it, who's going to? And check on your buddies. I tell you what, I've got some of the best friends that will, out of the blue, just call me and check. And I hope I'm as good a buddy to some others as they are to me. And check on your buddies, especially those that you might have served with or those that have served. And if anybody appears like they're struggling or going dark or whatever, get them some help, put them in the right direction. You know what? Just saying thanks to someone or just calling somebody and checking on them, that could be all it takes to turn somebody around and say, man, somebody does give a dang about me. And you just don't know necessarily the impact that you might have just by showing an interest. And so between now and next Sunday night, we'll see if some of that naturally occurs in our daily lives as we interact with people at work, home, play, or whatever. And we'll talk about it again next week on Speaking of Zane. And Steve Shirley, get that wing healed up there, would you, buddy? And no more slipping and falling. You're too old for that. You're in great shape, though. I tell you what, once Steve did his rehab from, I always forget how to pronounce the name, Guillain syndrome, a debilitating disease that cripples the nervous system. The good thing is it can regenerate and it can be taught back again, and that's what happened to Steve. And Steve went through that therapy that brought him right back where you never could have tell anything ever happened to him, and then he slips and falls. Oh, Steve. Good to have you in there tonight, and you look great in the picture, so I don't worry about you. I know you're doing good, but we'll keep praying for you and make sure them old bones of yours heal up. But everybody up in Michigan and Nebraska and Florida and wherever you're at tonight, thank you guys for joining. I sure do appreciate it, and we consider this therapeutic. And for you guys to come alongside and be our therapist or be actively involved in it, it means the world to us, and can't thank you enough for it. So have a great week. See you next Sunday night for Speaking of Zane.